Good morning, everybody. This is Lindsey Huddleston back in the building. Another SPS Monday Motivation. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Those Henry Ford Trojans were getting down over at Peterson Park. They were on a mile with it over at the Sauce Bar. Couldn't smooth down there, but I'm sure it was a great time. Shout out to the Henry Ford Trojans. Shout out to everybody, I think. A lot of people were doing their reunion stuff. Now, who is this? It happens to be, no surprise, Michelle Mimi Watkins. Good morning, Michelle. Hope you had a great weekend. It's hot in the city. We love our city, boy. It get hot. Shout out to my guy, Wu Payne. Thinking about you. Wu Payne had an experience that reminded us of what city living also brings, along with the love. There's also a lot of hate. Vandalized my man's vehicle. Some theft going on, man. My heart goes out to you, brother. Stand tall. Wu got nothing but love for everybody. But it happens. He's going to be okay. I also want to shout out somebody before I get started with today's topic, which is refreshing rejection. Got a chance to run into a pillar in our community, not only our Alpha community, but just in the community, not even on a local, state, or national level, but on a global scale. Brother Harry Todd. Ran into Harry Todd over at a great eatery in Metro Detroit, Oak Park, that is, over in Oak Park at Eddie's. Shout out to the big bro, Harry Todd. He was on the phone handling business on a global scale and on a domestic scale, taking care of his children all in one swoop. Great brother. If we had 8 jewels in Alpha, he probably would be the 8th. All due respect. Harry Todd, man, appreciate you, appreciate your support, appreciate what you're doing and how you're impacting people on a global scale. Got a lot of great things happening. Shout out to Harry Todd. So, DJ Butcher in the building, keeping it strong. How you doing, brother? It was good to see you a couple weeks ago, too, down in the city, getting it going. I know you got some stuff coming up as well. Here we're going to talk about this today. Classes in session today, folks. Please prepare yourself for a little bit more of a deep dive in some of the clinical psychological aspects of what we're talking about. But today's topic is refreshing rejection. Rejection is not a term people like to talk about. Reject it. No. Beat it. Not going to happen. Kick rocks. Whether this is in the professional world with a job or a role, whether you've been released or let go from a job. I guess I could say I'm fortunate that I've never been fired. I've been in a situation where they closed the doors, but never personally fired. But that's here nor there. Or then, affairs of the heart. She said no, whether it's a marriage proposal or whether it's a male saying no to a female or just not feeling you. It happens. And what do people tell you to do? They just say, hey, get over rejection. Just get over it. Get over it. But I did some research, folks. I did some research on this topic. And what they'll tell you is that social rejection increases your anger, your anxiety, depression, jealousy, and sadness. Maybe the brother who kicked the man off of the crate challenge, maybe he'd been experiencing some social rejection. That's why he did that. I don't know if you guys caught that on social media. I know the crate challenges are the popular thing, but there was a brother probably about 2 stories up on that crate challenge, man. He was very high, and he was about to get across. And then some young man, crab in the barrel mentality, kicked him off. But let's also talk about what else rejection does. It reduces our performance on difficult intellectual tasks. And it can also contribute to aggression and poor impulse control, as stated by psychological science, current direction of psychological science. Now, think about it. If you got bad news on a rejection, you're trying to write a paper, you're trying to take something where your intellectual tasks got to come into play, and you can't even do it. And so many times, we just say get past it, but researchers found there's evidence that the pain of being excluded is not so different from the pain of physical injury. Lindsey, what are you talking about? Researchers have found, Michelle, that the pain of being excluded from something or being rejected is not so different from the pain of physical injury. So are you telling me someone telling you no and getting rejected is like breaking your arm? That's what the research is saying. And it's saying it's the same area in the brain. It's the same area in the brain, Butch, that starts to go off. Let me talk about this part. There was a study done, and let's just find exactly what that information was. And it said that those who rejected showed increased activity in the dorsal anterior cingulate and the anterior insula. two of those regions that show increased activity in response to pain activity. So they did a study where they had people get rejected from a game and they monitor their brain activity. And the same place that responds to pain from being hurt, from physically being hurt, was going off too. You see that area that's lit up. Also right here. I wish they can have more culturally relevant models to use, but that's another conversation. That dorsal anterior cingulate cortex right there, that's the same area that responds to physical pain. You know, I was in pain, had them drugs going on when I had my ACL, my ACL at one point, but also my Achilles. But can you imagine that same pain you feel from breaking a finger or arm? You know, and I think what happens is when we get rejected, folks, we have to reconcile that. You know, and what we don't want to do is be like this person right here. He's a fictional character, but plays a very good role as a model. Who was that guy? You got my man Don Knotts, i.e. Deputy Barney Fife. You got Andy Griffith, the sheriff. Then you got Ernest T. Basque. That's right. Ernest T. Basque came to town. He was courting a young lady. She rejected him, and Ernest decided to throw a rock through the sheriff's office window. And he said he's going to throw a rock through every window in town until she accepts him. But that's what happens, folks. When we get rejected, whether it's being like Ernest T. Bass, shout out to Andy Griffith. Yeah, that's some good TV, boy, along with Fred Sanford's son. But shout out to the reality of, I think that a lot of times we get rejected and we'll try to reconcile it or blow it off, not knowing that there's an actual strong mental impact on that. There's a psychological impact to rejection. So what can we do when it comes to being rejected? How can we respond to that? You know, what can I give you to walk away with that can be helpful with what you're talking about? You can focus on what you bring to the table. I think that's very important, whether it's a job, whether it's a proposal, whether it's something you put out there. Shout out to my guy, Curtis Blackwell. He had sat down in a 2-part interview with me a while ago, and he talked about, hey, I've applied for 100 proposals and I've only gotten 10. But like you said, you only need to get one. But you also have to think about, what do you bring to the table? Even though you got rejected, something didn't work out, think about what you bring to the table. And then, you know, let's go back to that. There may be, right, wrong, or indifferent, an opportunity for you to grow in your skill set. You know, Juwan Howard, I just watched a podcast with him on the Knuckleheads, great podcast. He talked about how prior to him getting the Michigan job, he had been, quote unquote, rejected or denied opportunity for 3 head coaching positions. I bet they're kicking themselves now, but he walked away from it saying, okay, I got some areas of growth, even though he was probably ready to go and get it done right there. But there's nothing wrong with that. And I think sometimes a rejection, as hard as it may be, the growth opportunity can be saying, okay, well, what else can I add to it? Whether their decision was rooted in what they said you didn't have or you were lacking that, but don't let the pain of the rejection stop you from seeing an opportunity to grow, but also focus on what you bring to the table. Also ask yourself if it really matters or if you really care. And I think that's a really powerful question, especially when I ask yourself. You might tell everybody out in the world, I don't care about that, I don't care. We say that, but we just said that rejection, we just found that rejection impacts a part of the brain, the same part that impacts you physically, you know? So with that being said, rejection can be protection. You're absolutely right. Oh yeah, because we want what we want, we want it, right, Michelle? But you may be saying this is best for you, but it takes us to step back, Michelle, to really look at that. And I think what happens, and to your point right here, when you talk about ask yourself if it really matters, if you really care, and many times we just shrug it off. I don't care. I don't mean nothing. But you got to say, man, does this really matter to me? Is this really important? And I think in life, you're going to have some things that do and some that don't. You may not say it publicly because you're trying to save face, but that's okay. But then ask yourself, does it really matter? And if it does, maybe you can say, well, them rejecting me for that proposal or not getting that job, it does matter. So maybe there's some skill sets I need to work on developing, you know, because we all are in a state of evolution. There's still more that we can do. And sometimes the best information comes unfiltered. It may come in a way you don't like it. I was talking to a group recently. I was on a podcast. Shout out to Al Martin on Current Sports Podcast. You can find it on my Facebook page. And he was talking about my experience with Tom Izzo and players. And I remember going up to a player afterwards and saying, hey, man, how many languages do you speak? And he said 1. I said, no, you speak at least 2. You speak English and you speak Izzo. So and I was trying to let him know, and the light came on, is that sometimes, you know, you may not really want to hear it, but Izzo was giving him some information that can help him. He just didn't like the way he was presenting it. So ask yourself if it really matters. What else we're going to look at too? Choose to assume the best rather than the worst. Easier said than done. Easier said than done. Say, hey, maybe it had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with certain things about me. Maybe they were just at a different place in their life. Now I'm talking about not only just, an opportunity, a professional opportunity, but also personal opportunities. Maybe they got something else going on. Now that's good. And I think sometimes instinctually we say, no, man, it was because of this. And we have this, this sense of taking things very personal. But why not? We're personal creatures. But I think if we can take a step back and look at it and try to assume the best rather than the worst. I know the word assume can always be looked at with a side eye, But, I think that's better for our mental health. And you know what? It had nothing to do with me. This is what they was on. That they just not interested in what I'm presenting. They're not interested in what I'm talking about. They had a different point in their life. This is just not it. I mean, look at what Juwan Howard experienced. Like I just said, he got turned down by 3 teams, and it almost sounds asinine that within a year of him getting the Michigan job, a year prior to, he got turned down by 3 NBA teams. And then you look at the NBA now, with so many youthful coaches coming in, so much diversity in their coaching. And it just happens like that. But he took the right approach and the right role, and I think that's what you got to do. And also, lastly, as I get ready to wrap this up, what else do? You got to get back out there. Whatever you got rejected on, whether it's proposal, I refer to a proposal at the job or something you were putting out there, whether it was a relationship, whatever it may be, whether it was a job, you're on a job hunt, you're out of graduate school, or you're looking to get into something new, you got to get back out there because guess what? Shooters shoot. That's right, baby. Take it from the great Kobe Bryant. Shooters shoot, man. You got to keep putting it out there. You got to keep shooting your shot. Now your shot may be a little bit more refined. If you were shooting flat, maybe you got to go back and look at the tape. So, okay, I got to get off my feet a little bit more, which means I got to get a little bit more stamina. I got to get a little bit more cardio going on. So down in the fourth quarter, I can get up off my feet. If you're in football, whatever it may be, you go watch the tape. Say, okay, I'm dropping my hands too much. I got to work on getting in the weight room, getting my arms up. Or just in the business world, they say, hey, man, my skill sets are lacking. I was talking to one of my good brothers before, and he was talking about how he's making moves. He's looking at continuous education. Hey, go back in there and get it, Good morning, brother. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, shoot the ball. Shoot that rock, baby. That's Coach Kevin Marshall. That's great, Coach. You see what I'm saying? You got to tell them to get back out there. So many of our young people in particular, when they fail or something happens that they don't like on the court or field, they just get so caught up in that one scenario. They get caught up in that. But as a great late Kobe Bryant said, hey, baby, shoot. You got to get back out there. Refine your plan. Get back out there. Nick Saban once said that there was a guy actually, he was at a Nick Saban camp. Alabama camp. His son was a kicker, and his son was really good. And he said that his son had made like 9 out of 10. And he said Nick Saban response, I don't care about all the ones you make. I want to know what happens after you miss. See, so many times we have perfection in what we present, but when we get challenged, or in this case, as we're talking about the subject, when we get rejected, we have a hard time getting over that. That rejection is all that's in our head. But listen, man, the best ones got short memories. They'll tell you in a minute, I got short memory. Because what do it matter if I miss all these and I make the last one? And as my guy Curtis Blackwell said, you only got to get one. I said this before a couple of days ago. You can only operate in one space at one time, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So as it relates to rejection, let's talk about this refreshing rejection. To Michelle's point, rejection can, in fact, be your protection. You may think you want that, but that ain't what you want. The house you're looking at, you thought you want that. They sold it fast. You couldn't get it, but that's not the one you wanted. Whether it was a vehicle you wanted, you thought you wanted, you got the one, whether it was a relationship, whatever it may be. I want you guys to look at refreshing rejection. Yep. Michelle said it. You only need one. That's right. And it's hard because in this consumption-led society, in this society where we look at this phone and we want to see and compare and get more and more and more, we just sitting right here trying to hold all these things. But what can you rock with? You can only be in one space at one time. So with that, because I can only be in one space at one time, looking forward to being down at Harper Woods High School again today. Shout out to their staff. They're having a coaches retreat. I'm looking forward to bringing the SPS edge to them. And also Harper Wood High School will be the home site for the SPS Stars Showcase on September 4th. But also, guys, I got to put it out there. Got some basketball coming. Shout out to my guy Orlando Watkins. Michelle knows who that guy is. And Team Michigan, they were talking about Team Michigan. Juwan Howard was talking about that on the podcast, the history of Team Michigan. Looking forward to some basketball coming up to Traverse City Resort, Great Grand Traverse Resort on Halloween weekend. So it's 15 minutes, guys. I'm going to let you go. Have a great day. Have a great Monday. Have a great week. Have a great month. Have a great year. Have a great life. This is Lindsay Hudson with SPS. Thank you for support. See you guys next time. Peace.